We are now back in the Ultra League in the Go Battle League. In this video, we're going to take a look at the PvP rankings, heading over to pvpoke.com to see what, if anything, has changed between Season 1 and Season 2. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel, trainers. My name is Oro Chris. I am your catching coach. And if we head over to pvpoke.com, we can see that there has been somewhat of a ranking shakeup. Cresselia now, #1 ranked Pokemon in the Ultra League. That coming off of the change, the buff to the moveset of Moonblast. Previously, it was a little bit more expensive of a move, took a little bit more energy in order to get that launched. They reduced the energy cost, therefore making it a little bit more of a powerful attack, and also now having a 1-stage debuff to the opponent at a 30% chance to get that debuff. Things like Icy Wind have the same debuff, 1-stage attack drop, but it's 100%. This move only a 30% chance at the debuff. But if you're able to get that off on a Pokemon, and with a Pokemon as tanky as Cresselia is in the Ultra League, it is definitely going to be a tough battle for the opponent. The recommended moveset here is Psycho Cut, Future Sight, and Moonblast. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, I've got this brand new Grass Knot Cresselia from the Throwback Challenge, why not use that and take out all of those Swamperts in Ultra League? But if we head over to the Battle Simulator and we see Cresselia versus Swampert, and we've got Psycho Cut, Future Sight, and Moonblast. Again, Moonblast only costing 60 energy at a 1.05 damage per energy power level, and Future Sight a little bit more expensive at 65 energy. No Grass Knot on this Cresselia versus Swampert, running the standard moveset of Mudshot, Hydro Cannon, and Earthquake. And if we hit battle, we will see that going with Moonblast for a bait, a little bit less energy, a Future Sight, and a Moonblast, you come out of that matchup with a ton of HP remaining. It is not even close in favor of the Swampert. And even in the 2-shield, we come over and we see slightly closer, but still not even coming close as far as tying that up for the Swampert. Let's change the fact pattern. Remove Future Sight altogether. Only go straight Moonblast. Winning the 2-shield. And as we can see here with the 597 ranking for the 1-shield matchup, anything above a 500 is going to be a win for the Pokemon on the left side of the matrix. So drop the Grass Knot. You're going to be much better off having Moonblast and Future Sight. The reason for that being the higher damage per turn or per energy of Future Sight. You're going to want to have that in your arsenal. We can see here 1.26 damage per energy as compared to 1.05 damage per energy for Moonblast. And this is, again, unique to this matchup. This is not going to be universal numbers. I'm just using this to illustrate the overall power, and the main difference being Future Sight having that stab bonus. And if you're not familiar, stab is same type attack bonus. A Pokemon of a certain type that uses a type of attack that is the same type as that Pokemon, they get a boost to the overall attack for that moveset. And as a result, Future Sight being a psychic type move, Cresselia being a psychic type Pokemon, is going to get that stab bonus at 20%, I believe. So leave the Grass Knot. The major important reason, Moonblast you're going to want for those matchups against the dragons, especially against Giratina. If you come into a bad matchup and you've got a Shiftry swapping in on you, you've got something that's going to be hitting for super effective damage, you are absolutely hosed if you've got Grass Knot and Future Sight running against Shiftry. Similarly, Future Sight, because it has an overall higher damage per energy, if you need a harder hitting move, Future Sight in a lot of instances is going to be a better option for you. Heading back over to the rankings, we can see that Shadow Swampert, also a new addition to the Ultra League rankings, but just barely in front of regular Swampert. This Shadow Swampert, you would need to use a Elite Charge TM in order to pull that moveset off, Hydro Cannon being an exclusive Community Day move. As a result, very unlikely to see a Shadow Swampert this season of Ultra League in the Go Battle League. Giratina altered, how far the mighty have fallen. Still slaying it though at ranked 3rd for the Ultra League rankings. Shadow Claw, Dragon Claw, and Shadow Sneak. The reason that moveset is recommended is that a couple of months back, Ancient Power did receive a hard nerf, and as a result, it does less damage when attacking the opponent's Pokemon, and more importantly, the overall chance of getting that buff. Ancient Power has a 10% chance, I believe, of raising the attacking Pokemon's attack and defense stage by 2 stages, I believe. And as a result, that 10% chance, not very likely, not something you can, in most circumstances, rely upon. So as a result, you're really using that attack because it had a harder hit against things like Togekiss for super effective damage. But because the damage for that move has been nerfed, Shadow Sneak now is the recommended moveset. But not all bad for Giratina in that regard. Shadow Sneak, a ghost type move, does give it some outs against Pokemon like Registeel. Previously, when the recommended moveset was Shadow Claw, Dragon Claw, and Ancient Power, Registeel was resisting all of those charge moves as a steel type Pokemon. Shadow Sneak, however, is going to be doing neutral damage to Registeel. So now a much more level playing field. You've got a super strong, bulky Pokemon like Giratina Altered Form going up against a super bulky and strong Pokemon like Registeel. It's now a much more even matchup, both hitting each other for neutral damage. And as we previously mentioned, Swampert in the number 4 spot, very strong. And if we look at the matchups here, can pull out a win against Giratina, but to get that win, you are going to need to bait the Hydro Cannon. Also super important, because Cresselia is that number 1 ranked Pokemon, super bulky, super well situated in the meta, can beat things like Giratina, you need to have a counter specifically for Cresselia now. And Alolan Muck is going to be a great option. Now here, Alolan Muck, I'm bringing it up because Swampert pulls out a handy win against Alolan Muck. So that is something to definitely consider on adding Swampert into your team. Again, you're going to need to have Hydro Cannon. That is a major factor in the success of this Pokemon. If you are considering using an Elite TM for a Pokemon, my personal thoughts, my personal recommendation would be hold off on Community Day Pokemon, reach out to someone in a local trainer in a Discord. A lot of Pokemon trainers have extra Community Day Pokemon that they evolved during those specific Community Day hours. They may have something that they can trade for. You can offer a trade in return. Up to this point in December, they have given an opportunity to evolve those Community Day Pokemon during a specific weekend to get those Community Day moves at a return opportunity. So I would personally hold off. Swampert's strong, but there are other alternatives. It's not a do or die for the Ultra League. And again, pulling out key wins against Registeel, super important Pokemon. You're going to want to have Registeel covered, and he can pull out that win. Charizard, and then Snorlax. Snorlax getting a lot of play as a potential counter to Giratina Altered Form. So definitely look into Swampert. Common counters, its only weakness, its only super effective attack into Swampert as one of the Mud Boys is grass type Pokemon. So Tropius, ain't no one gonna be running Tropius in the Ultra League, but the highest rated grass type is Tropius. Shadow form Torterra, regular form Torterra would win that matchup just as well. We can see that here in another 5 spot. Sun Flora, basically anything with Razor Leaf is going to tear through this Pokemon. In the Ultra League, I'm not super confident you'll see a lot of Razor Leaf users because of things like Giratina as a Ghost Dragon going to be resisting grass type attacks. Registeel as a Steel type resisting those. Charizard is much more prevalent in the Ultra League than in the Great League. So as a result, grass types have a harder time, and that's part of the reason that Swampert is so well ranked in the Ultra League, because there aren't many natural counters. You do have plenty of starter Pokemon, the grass types, things like Torterra, more prevalently Meganium, and of course Venusaur, but have an answer for Swampert on your team. That is for certain. Next on the top 10 list, we've got Registeel. Now Registeel going to be handing it to Alolan Muck. Venusaur, all the grass types really are going to have a hard time against Registeel. We've got Articuno pulling out a win there. Articuno in Season 1 was a very common Pokemon. It was running Icy Wind, Ice Shard, and Ancient Power. Now the recommended moveset, as we're going to get to a little bit later, is going to be Hurricane because of that nerf, as we mentioned, to Ancient Power. Can beat out Cresselia. Cresselia has no answer to a Registeel, and the reason being Steel types, they resist Steel type. They do resist Steel type attacks, but that's not what I meant to say. They do resist Psychic type attacks, they resist Ice type attacks, they resist Grass type attacks, and they resist Fairy type attacks. So anything that Cresselia is going to be bringing to the table, Registeel is going to be resisting it. So that is a tough matchup. You definitely want to swap out of that if you can as a Cresselia user. And then Clefable, really all the fairies have a hard time against Registeel. Clefable of the Charmers, probably the most preferred, part of the reason being it has access to Meteor Mash, which is a super hard hitting charge move in the Ultra League, and is going to be hitting all of the other fairies for super effective damage as a result. The problem for Clefable, however, its typical moveset is Charm, Psychic, and Meteor Mash. Again, all of those resisted by a Pokemon like Registeel. Togekiss, in comparison, has access to Flamethrower, so at least can hit those Steel types for super effective damage in that regard. Next up, Articuno. As we mentioned, Ice Shard, Icy Wind, and Hurricane. Hurricane is a legacy move. It was only available for a limited time as part of a Articuno rerun raid day, not in the original raid day, but something separate if I recall. Great option, and the reason being that Ice type attack is going to be super effective against Pokemon like Giratina Altered Form. As a flying type, it's going to be resisting the ground type attacks of Pokemon like Swampert. Going to be hitting Alolan Muck with that Icy Wind. Icy Wind is again one of those moves that we mentioned that debuffs the opponent's attack stat, and as a result, Pokemon that can't take out or can't get a super effective hit into Articuno to take it down quickly, over time just get worn down by getting hit by too many Icy Winds, reducing their attack, and then can't beat it in the long run. Articuno also a fairly bulky Pokemon, so definitely a good choice for the Ultra League. And part of the reason also that you want to be running Hurricane is that Poliwrath is going to be a very prevalent Pokemon in the Ultra League. At least it has been in preseason and in Season 1 of Go Battle League. If you've only got Icy Wind, Ice Shard, and Ancient Power, the preferred Season 1 moveset, you've got no super effective hit into Poliwrath, whereas he can launch off a Dynamic Punch, can hit you for neutral damage with an Ice Punch. A lot of options for a Poliwrath in that matchup. But as a water and fighting type, it's going to be resisting Ice type attacks, it's going to be resisting Rock type attacks. That Hurricane, however, that Hurricane is going to hurt. And if the Poliwrath doesn't shield, thinking, oh, this person's going to come in and they're going to use an Icy Wind, why would I shield that? It doesn't do much damage and it's resisted by Poliwrath. Then you Hurricane them. It's going to be a sad day for that trainer. And then finally, Venusaur. Really all of the grass types are going to have a hard time versus Articuno. And again, the reason being grass is weak to ice type attacks. Articuno as a flying type is going to be resisting grass type attacks. So overall, very good choice for grass type counters. And then we reach the other legacy Pokemon, Mewtwo armored form. Armored Mewtwo running Confusion, Side Strike, and Dynamic Punch. In Season 1, not Season 1, in preseason, the preferred moveset was Confusion, Dynamic Punch, and Rock Slide, probably. But because Side Strike was given as an exclusive move, that is now a super hard-hitting, faster-charging move that really makes Armored Mewtwo a real threat in the Ultra League. I was super bummed personally to have powered up an Armored Mewtwo and then get the announcement that they're releasing Side Strike, so I had to power up a second iteration of Armored Mewtwo, candies that I did not have ready to invest. Wins against Swampert, Poliwrath, Venusaur. Venusaur really going to be eaten up as a poison type. Registeel, because it has access, it being the Mewtwo, has access to Dynamic Punch, can hit the Registeel for super effective damage, really helping to shore up that matchup. And then Charizard also. Charizard definitely better situated in the Ultra League, but the problem for Charizard is that even in the Ultra League, it is a little bit on the frail side. So a bulky Pokemon like Armored Mewtwo, hitting as hard as Side Strike permits it to hit, really in a tough spot there. Typical counters, the Dark types, the Grass types. Dark types, however, if it's running Dynamic Punch, Dark types will be having immunity tier resistance to the Confusion fast move damage, but they're going to take super effective from the Dynamic Punch, and a Dynamic Punch that isn't shielded is going to hurt, especially in a super effective situation. Next up, Venusaur, the first of the Community Day Grass type Pokemon, the starters. Venusaur, with that part poison typing, typically does very well against the other grass types. Again, going to be wrecking all of the waters. Swampert, Poliwrath can beat Clefable. That poison subtyping providing it resistance to the fairy type damage of Clefable. Can beat out Snorlax and Lapras. Lapras, even running an ice type move, typically can't pull out a win against Venusaur because those Frenzy Plants just hit so hard. Next up, we've got Lapras. Lapras with Ice Shard, Surf, and Ice Beam. So this is a double legacy Lapras in the Ultra League. In Great League, the preferred moveset is Ice Shard as the fast move. That is legacy. And then Surf and Skull Bash. The reason being, in the Great League meta, Azumarill is super prevalent, and if you've only got water and ice type attacks, you're not going to be hitting for neutral damage against an Azumarill, which is, as we know, a water and fairy type Pokemon. With access to Skull Bash in the Great League, you now can pull out that win as a Lapras user. In the Ultra League, however, Giratina and the other dragon types really make having Ice Beam a necessity in the Ultra League. A neutral hit from something like Skull Bash, which is a normal type move that a ghost like Giratina has immunity tier resistance to. A ghost is also going to be, not a ghost, a dragon is also going to be resisting water type damage from Surf. Lapras really can't use Skull Bash to full effectiveness in the Ultra League. So this just demonstrates how differently a Pokemon needs to be considered as far as its moveset when you move between one meta to the other in Great League, Ultra League, and Master League. Shadow Zapdos coming in at number 10. You need to use an elite fast TM to get this Zapdos, however. Thunder Shock, Drill Peck, and Thunderbolt. Now Zapdos with Thunder Shock, definitely a strong option in the Ultra League. We have got key wins against Swampert, even a ground type that is going to be resisting as a ground type the electric attacks, but running straight Drill Peck, Zapdos is able to pull out that win against the Swampert. So definitely a strong option, and as we can see here, coming out with just a little bit of health, 15 HP left in the tank, but definitely a strong option for Ultra League. And of course, Registeel as a flying and electric type. Zapdos is going to be resisting steel type attacks as an electric type. It's going to be resisting Focus Blast, the fighting type move, as a flying type. So Registeel has no neutral hit against Zapdos. And then with access to Thunder Shock, it's going to be charging up its fast moves more quickly. Thunderbolt's going to be hitting really hard with the stab bonus as an electric type. And then with that shadow buff, going to be hitting extra hard. Definitely a strong option there. Poliwrath, same thing. Even with access to a super effective hit like Ice Punch, can't pull out a win. And here's the most shocking part. We've now got an electric type that can beat out grass types. Typically, the normal electric type that you see in the Ultra League, things like Ampharos, they've got no answer to a grass type. Grass types resist electric type attacks, but Venusaur, now Zapdos having access to Drill Peck, can hit for super effective damage and pull out that win. And then going to be winning also against most of the other flying type Pokemon because of that electric super effective hit into other flyers like Articuno. Typical, the electric typing of Zapdos gives it resistance to electric type attacks, so you're going to be better off using something like an ice attack against its flying typing or a rock type attack, and that's why we see Pokemon here like Terrakion and Rampardos. I wouldn't recommend either of those in the Ultra League, but nonetheless, they're ranked well as far as counters are concerned. Now, one Pokemon that I do want to call out and bring to your attention before we close is Giratina Origin Form. Previously, Giratina Altered Form in Season 1 as well as preseason in the Ultra League, Giratina Altered Form was like the the pinnacle of meta Pokemon. Cresselia was less common, but it could pull out wins depending on energy management and shielding against a Giratina, even though Giratina was able to hit for super effective damage with the Shadow Claw. With the change, the buff to Moonblast, Cresselia now has a much easier win against Giratina Altered Form. As a result, Giratina Altered Form less strong in the meta. Registeel, a super prevalent Pokemon in the Ultra League, as we mentioned. But Giratina Origin Form can pull out a win not only against Giratina Altered Form, not only against Registeel, but if we go into a battle here and we swap this to Cresselia, it can also pull out a win versus Cresselia. As we can see here, we've got Giratina Origin Form. Adjust myself over here. Pulling out a win with 34 HP in the tank. Now, in this win, they do bait with an Ominous Wind, but it's a win nonetheless. So we've got now one Pokemon, Giratina Origin Form, that can beat Giratina Altered Form, Registeel, and Cresselia, all wrapped up in one. And I expect to see if Habit and Custom prove to be any indicator. A lot of folks are accustomed, they've already invested in a Giratina Altered Form. They're going to run very common or similar teams. They're going to look at these rankings and see Cresselia as number one, maybe invest in that Pokemon. And now we've got the core of Giratina Altered Form, Cresselia, and Registeel. Giratina Origin Form can break down all three of those Pokemon, depending on shielding, depending on baiting, I understand, but be on the watch. As a result, I would expect to see an increased use of normal type Pokemon like Licky Licky, Snorlax. Those are going to be Pokemon that are going to be having immunity tier resistance to ghost type attacks. Giratina Giratina Origin Form running the standard all ghost moveset of Shadow Claw, Shadow Ball, and Ominous Wind. So having a normal type on your team like Licky Licky or Snorlax is going to be super helpful in this season of Go Battle League if my projections are right and we see a rise of Giratina Origin Form. But as we can see, a lot has changed since Season 1 of the Go Battle League in the Ultra League, the biggest being the buff to Cresselia. In this season, you want to have a strong counter to Cresselia on your team, and Giratina Altered Form is not going to get it done like it did in the seasons past. In a separate video, we will take a look at some of the anti-meta picks for the Ultra League. In this video, we are limiting the scope of coverage to what are the top ranked and more meta Pokemon according to PvPoke and the Ultra League rankings. If you're interested in Pokemon Go, competitive PvP, and basically anything Pokemon related, be sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you're interested in that video on anti-meta picks, be sure to turn on notifications. But until next time, happy catching.